This is AMC's For Your Consideration movie show. This is episode number 6, recorded originally on Thursday, August the 16th, 2012, at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. The 1980s and 90s action films. Thanks so much for joining us. We hope you enjoy it. Greetings and citations, everybody. Welcome to the newest installment of For Your Consideration Movie Talk for movie fans. As always, I'm your host. My name is John Campia. I'm the senior editor of AMC Movie News. Joining us this week, first of all, sitting to my right, I can say it now, right?
Yes.
Of Rotten Tomatoes.
Yay!
Big news.
Yes, very big news. Ms. Gray Drake, Grace, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. And just so you know, I don't know where my special powers are coming from today, if it's the vest or if it's the Stevie Nicks sleeves.
It's the flare of orange.
I think it's
flare
the
of orange.
necklace.
Power combination of orange.
Exactly.
And sitting to the right of Gray, she is, of course, the associate editor of movie news over here at AMC Theaters, Miss Roth Cornett, also known as J-Ro.
Hello.
Well, listen, we've got a bunch of things to talk about. First of all, we want to thank all of you guys who are joining us in the live stream. Don't forget, jump into the chat board and you can start leaving your questions and comments where Ryan, sitting back there, will be keeping track of all your questions and comments, and he'll be bringing up your questions and asking them at the final segment of the show so we can address the stuff that you guys want to talk about. That being said, stop the presses, hold everything.
Hold up.
Giant news break.
What?
Pump the brakes.
Production on Iron Man 3 has been ground to a halt.
Shut the front door.
It has been ceased and stopped because of apparently an injury to Robert Downey Jr., who has reportedly sprained his ankle doing some stunts.
Poor baby. Poor billionaire.
I know.
Now, Robert, we were talking to Junior down at Junior. Robert.
I beg of you, the next time you interview him, address him as Junior. Let's just see what happens.
Oh my
I beg of
God.
you.
Hey, Junior. Robert Downey Jr. was talking to us at Comic-Con. He was talking about how in this film he really wanted to do more of his own stunts.
Oh no.
He wanted people to watch and go, oh my God, I can't believe Robert Downey Jr. is actually doing that stuff, which is kind of admirable.
Yeah,
I
sure.
dig that. Not that let's face it, most of the real action Iron Man ever does is CG.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, he does some stuff. And then today we find out he broke his ankle.
Maybe it wasn't such a good idea.
Chris Hemsworth, he ain't.
He doesn't need to be either, though. I mean, because here's the thing is, like, what we love about Robert Downey Jr. isn't him doing his own stunts.
Of course.
It's his personality and his massive presence, and his talent. So we love you, Robert, even if you sprained your ankle running down the street.
Speedy
Or
recovery.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Speedy
Single
recovery
most
to you.
charismatic movie star today.
Of course.
Yeah, he really is.
Well, that's what I think is funny. Like when movie stars try to do stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't bother.
Don't
it's
bother.
phone it in. It's
Yeah,
fine.
It's fine. That's because I think if that's their thing, certainly you need to have certain action stars doing a lot of their own stunts because
Obviously,
this
yeah.
is what we are impressed with from them.
If Jason Statham stopped doing a certain amount of his own like martial arts,
Right.
I would be done.
Yes, we would.
Okay,
we
I'm
would
lying.
tap
I
out
still
on
love him.
Statham. We would tap out on him at that point. However,
Because that's his thing. He
Because
is
that's
the
his
action
thing.
guy.
Yeah.
Right. Of course. That's a good point.
but Robert Downey Jr. is Chaplin. I mean, he's a pretty talented person.
He is that guy from The Soloist,
Exactly.
who is not the actual soloist.
But let's give him his due before we move on to the next topic. Let's give him his due. I mean, watching the Sherlock Holmes film, the dude's in really good
Yeah,
shape.
he is.
Yeah, he
I
is.
mean, it's not like he's just some flubby, action guy who doesn't do his own stunts.
No,
He's
not at
not
all.
like
And those
Kevin
are,
James.
Those were cool fight sequences, but a lot of it was because of how it was shot and sort of edited. I mean, it wasn't really because we want to see him fighting,
True. Right.
Yeah, it's like Guy Ritchie doing slow-mo
Exactly.
with Robert Downey Jr. equals huge box
Awesome.
office dollars.
Well, let's
Money,
we got to
money,
move
money,
on to the main thing here. This weekend, one of the films is opening that apparently we all really like. Although I haven't asked you if you liked Expendables 2.
Are you asking me right now?
Did you like Expendables? We talked a lot about it in our last episode, but did you like it?
I loved
Okay,
it.
good. Then that makes it unanimous because we
Yeah.
all really liked it. It's opening this
40% of their audience was women last time.
Yeah.
Wasn't that crazy?
Yeah, I think that will actually go up.
Well,
I do, because it's a lot of fun.
At first, I just wondered if I, at the time, was overweight and they were counting me for 40% of the audience. I guess it's not the case.
You've never been overweight a day in your life.
I love
Which is always the appropriate response.
Right. True. Good call.
But it got us thinking about, I mean, obviously the appeal of the Expendables franchise is going back to the nostalgia of all these great 80s and to some degree 90s action heroes.
Who knew Sylvester Stallone was so smart in crafting that idea?
Well,
That's surprising, honestly. He's shrewd.
I don't think
Shrewd
I'm actually
Stallone.
not super surprised that he's shrewd, because he's been shrewd throughout the various stages of his career. And if one of those guys was going to come up with this idea, it was going to be Stallone.
Yeah.
You know?
True.
I mean, it's probably, I'm going to say Expendables 2 is probably like his second best idea next to Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Okay.
But
really?
anyway.
Rocky? No, not Rocky.
No,
Okay.
don't be silly.
Oh, my vest is
so-
going to bust open from the volume of laughter that's happening.
So we thought we would take some time here to talk about, list, and maybe do a little bit of ranking of what we consider to be the best action films of the 80s and to some degree the 90s as well. Because look, I mean, really, when you've really stopped to think about it, there were so many. Actually, I lament it quite a bit today, because really today we have two action stars. There's The Rock and there's Jason Statham. Those are the two legitimate, full-fledged, all-out action
that
stars.
are like the old school
those
ones.
that are like the old school. The action movies of today are just very different, you know. And so
Unless it's The Rock.
Okay.
Unless it's Jason Statham.
But you know what I mean? Like today we have the Bournes, we have it's actors that are taking
Yeah,
on
but I
action
mean, you
roles.
get actors who can go and play action roles,
Yeah.
and some of them do it very, very well. Jeremy Renner being one of them.
Right.
I'm very happy to see him in an action film, but he is not a pure blood action
No,
star.
no,
And there's only two of them left. In the 80s and 90s,
We had a lot,
we had a lot.
as we can see from the Expendables.
I feel like, yeah, no kidding. I feel like Chris Hemsworth, weirdly, the second time I brought him up and we're like 2 minutes in
Oh,
the
we're
show.
gonna bring him up 7 more.
But
Don't worry.
let's count. I feel like he's closer.
I don't know if he really is. I mean, I don't think that we've had
God,
a
does
chance.
he want to act though? Oh, he
Does
wants
he?
to act.
I think he does want to act, and I think that probably he can. I mean, you know, he certainly wasn't an action. It wasn't Cabin in the Woods.
Okay,
is
I'm going to put the
not an
brakes on
action
this
film.
right now. We are not going to go on a Chris Hemsworth bunny
Why
trail here.
not?
We're going to get back to the topic at hand.
Host of this show.
Which is funny because we have another topic coming up later that does involve Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, good.
ironically
Yay!
enough.
I am sated.
We
So
can talk about
I'm
it
going to
then.
start with you, Roth. I'm going to go over to you. What would you say? Throw out a couple, but then give me a little bit of maybe a top 2 or 3. But throw out a bunch. What do you think are the best action films of the 80s/90s?
You know, Gray and I were just talking about this, and this is one of the harder assignments that you've given. And
You were mean.
You were mean. And the reason is because every time you come down to 3, you feel a little ashamed of yourself because you've left other ones off.
It's true.
So I broke it down into categories, and I was like, okay, we have to have Foreign Le Fen Nikita. I love that movie. That's
a good
Luc
movie.
Besson. Run Lola Run, which is really interesting and does unique things with the medium. There's Ron. I think that you have to have that. You have to have Kurosawa's Ron on the list if you're going to talk about action movies from that era. You have Fun, so that's Time Bandits, and certainly True Lies, which may make it to like my top 3 if I'm in a certain mood. There's like the Lethal Weapons, and of course the Terminators. Casino Royale, I think, is a good one. There's for sci-fi, Aliens, The Matrix, The Fifth Element, which is one that not everybody loves, but I happen to love that movie. And then there's, of course,
Wait, The Matrix? You said?
Fifth Element.
Oh, Fifth Element. Yeah, the
not-
singing.
the
Hey, Mila
I think-
Jovovich in bandages, man. Done.
I think you
Done
have to.
deal.
I think you have to give a shout out to the car chases in Ronin. I think that you have to talk about the most underrated action movie ever, which is The Long Kiss Goodnight. I don't care what you say. I
am
don't care what you
so
say.
glad
Yeah,
you
yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
that film. No
Yeah,
one talks
great
about The
one.
Long Kiss Goodnight. That is a wonderful film.
I love that
Truly.
movie. I really love that movie. But if you just so that's all of it, and then you break it down, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to go with? There's of course, I love Verhoeven.
Right.
Well, that's what we talked about the last time
Yeah.
I was here, is how great he is.
He is so great. And so when you break it down, these are the things that I love in an action movie, which is I want it to be fun, or I want it to take a unique approach, or I want it to advance the medium or the genre. So
And I want it to be funny a little bit.
and I want it to be a little bit funny. So I'd have to go with RoboCop is certainly up there for me.
RoboCop is so dope.
Yeah, I mean, because it's unapologetically violent. It is sociopolitically satiric in a way that only Verhoeven can do. Those commercials alone are worth seeing.
I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really a unique approach. I love that movie. I would throw in also, there's some crime movies. There's The Professional, True
Professional, for sure.
Romance. I'm sorry, that movie is great.
I love The Professional. I wouldn't qualify it as an action.
Well, that's
film.
why, and then
Really?
The Untouchables, and then that's where you get into a murky area. Is this a crime movie or is this
Because
an
then
action
a lot of people
movie?
would mention to me in discussions about this week. A lot of people would bring up, well, Indiana Jones. It's like, Indiana Jones is an adventure film. I really
Yeah.
wouldn't qualify it as an action film.
That's
like when you're
fair.
talking about those, like RoboCops or the Arnold Schwarzenegger class
Yeah.
and stuff,
These are
that's
just
what I
the-
think of, the visceral
The Total
kind of,
Recalls.
Die
Yeah.
Hard.
And
yeah,
Die Hard,
the
of course.
The Die Hard.
I don't.
But
Come on.
go
Die
ahead.
Hard is action. I feel
Die
like.
Hard is
I
absolutely.
would qualify it as an action film.
It's a
So I want your
80s
top
action.
three.
So okay, so having said all of that, I can't pick, but I'm gonna go with RoboCop. Would be number 3 for me for all of the reasons that I mentioned, and then I would go with Run Lola Run because I think it's a really, really unique, different. I got corrected
This
about
is how dumb I
pronouncing-
feel. I didn't realize that was 90s.
Yeah,
That's how.
98.
yeah,
Wow.
98.
Yeah.
I really, really like that movie. I think it's a unique approach. I think cinematically it's a unique approach. I happen to like a strong female character.
I like saying Franca Potente.
Exactly. You also like saying her name. I got corrected about Tom Tykwer.
Tykwer?
Tykwer.
Tykwer.
I believe that's how you
Verhoeven.
pronounce it,
Ach.
but he's now the third of the trifecta that is taking on Cloud Atlas. And then I personally, just because it was to me at that time a revelation, Terminator 2. Sarah Connor came out and gave me something to believe in as a woman watching an action movie. I freaking love her
Yeah.
so much. The double guns, are you kidding me? Plus, she's doing it all because of she is literally a mother lion. It takes the most
Literally.
literally. She is not literally a mother lion. I have misused the
And
word
she was
literally.
great in Chuck too. I
Yeah.
really liked her in her run on Chuck, but
She is not literally. She's figuratively
But-
a mother lion, but that is where it's coming from. That's why we love Ripley too.
Right,
But
and both, by the way, iconic tank tops
iconic tank tops.
worn by those women.
But Alien is more of a horror movie, so that's
Agreed.
why I left
I
that
agree.
off.
Yeah.
I know, sci-fi horror, it's tough.
Yeah. Plus, too, technologically it advanced the medium a lot. That movie had great technology, beautiful use of technology, as he always does. Cameron
Yeah.
always does, and I think it still works today. It
Oh, yeah.
still looks good.
Yeah.
so looks good. So
It does.
great. I like your list actually. So you got RoboCop, Run Lola Run, and Terminator 2.
Terminator 2.
Okay,
are
so
good.
Gray, let's go
I
with
do not
you.
argue.
Throw out some honorable mentions and then hit us with your top 3.
Some of our Twitter followers, I gotta shout out to, like
They
Jai.
did great stuff.
Yes, Jai CSC mentioned one of my favorite movies, which I love because for me, I'm a huge fan of So Bad They're Good movies.
Right.
And so Nicolas Cage, I'm all over it.
Oh,
Okay,
I know
and
what
he
you're going for.
mentioned Face Off. Genius. Oh my god, it's like on no planet, sci-fi, horror, or otherwise, action or otherwise, could John Travolta and Nicolas Cage ever switch places. But it's like action, adventure, and body switching in the same dang movie.
And really,
I
how
love
good did those guys play each other?
Great.
It was awesome. Like when Nicolas Cage was talking, it was like I really feel like I'm watching John Travolta, and
Yeah.
vice versa. I thought they did a great job
Because
with
in
that.
body switching movies, that's the key, is that you're watching someone
Yeah.
act like this other famous person that you love, and which is why was it Change Up with Ryan Reynolds? What was that
Yes.
The
movie?
change
The
up.
Change Up.
Yes.
With Jason
with
Bateman.
Jason Bateman.
Jason Reitman.
That's why that movie, I was like, what? Whose bright idea was it to cast 2 white guys with brown hair
Yeah.
that are really similar personalities? Because then the switch isn't that funny.
Yeah, the switch is not that. That's a great point for why that movie did not work.
That's why
The
Hollywood.
movie did indeed work. I thought it was funny. But anyway.
It was funny. But
Other
anyway,
action
so
films.
Face Off, way to go, Jai, CSC. And another, Chris D. Holloway mentioned Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Now, I personally, I know we're more of an adventure, but I feel like that's a little picky. I like my indies an action hero. So I'm going to say Raiders too. And then Lethal Weapons, of course, which you brought up. Because it's like Mel Gibson did something really, regardless of how totally crazy he is in real life.
No, but that's how totally crazy he is in the movie is what makes it amazing.
Exactly. And so what he did for movies in the 80s and 90s
Yeah.
was made the mullet hot again.
Okay.
And he brought the crazy mullet hotness to all of us, and
Yeah.
I love him for that. So it's like Lethal Weapon, also honorable mention to Bird on a Wire. Love
Wow, I didn't see that one coming. Okay.
Love it. Thank you, Goldie Hawn, for being precious. And yeah, I mean, just everything Mel Gibson, basically. I'm such a huge fan that it makes me so sad now to hear him talk.
Yeah, well, he can't talk ever as a person.
But
for
you know,
sure. We should just put a gag on that.
But even reading the transcript of when he went crazy the last time was
Yeah.
brilliant. It's like you can't even write a script that good. He's like, "Rah, you're all disinvited to dinner," and then he like tips over a column in his own house. I don't even know. It was so
Disinvited to dinner.
It was just so good. I'm paraphrasing. I don't know. But he's awesome. So Mel Gibson has a special place in my heart. But my top three, this was really hard. This was probably the meanest thing anyone has ever asked me in the history of asking me questions. But I had to go with Cobra.
Whoa, okay.
Like a little Sly Stallone hanging out in the swinging chain and hook and fire factory.
That is a surprising. I'm with you on Indiana Jones, but I put that more in the adventure category. But
Okay.
I gotta say that is super Cobra. Okay, go ahead.
Cobra's so awesome, and it really holds up because it's bonkers, and that's like.
I think that we're finding a common ground in that we like crazy, because that's what's great
Yes.
about Lethal Weapon. Gunner, tell me Gunner is your favorite character in The Expendables.
Of course.
Obviously, he's so nuts. Okay, go ahead.
But all of their names bring me such joy.
Oh, Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar. I just like to make up fake names for them when I can't remember their actual names. Like I'm like that one's junk in the trunk, and that one's like firecracker. You know,
Those are two real names from the film.
that's what they are real names. I was gonna make a horrible ethnic joke. I'm not gonna do that. I'm only gonna allude to it. AMC, too edgy. Okay, number 2 is a tie, because I think you mentioned this one, True Lies. You said that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
True
Okay.
Lies.
True Lies I love because for one important reason that I think makes me a weirdo,
Good.
it doesn't, is that it taught me that Jamie Lee Curtis is so super hot.
So hot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So super hot. And I love that scene. Like, I saw
You
that.
didn't know that from Perfect?
I really think it was that hotel room scene.
It was.
that
She's
really,
stripping?
it's so iconic.
Yeah, it really
And it was
is.
like, I saw that at like a very formative period in my life. And I think
Yeah.
it's what single-handedly turned me into a slut.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you, Jamie Lee, says all the boys from Grey's Past.
So JLC, nothing but love. But it's a tie between True Lies, and I realized recently with the re-release how much I love the original Total Recall.
I do too. I see that's for me, and the only reason that RoboCop versus Total Recall made my top 3 is because I put Total Recall a little more in the sci-fi
Exactly.
kind of, you know.
Yeah.
But I love Total Recall, and God, yeah, I love Verhoeven.
I was ready.
I think it's a tragically overrated film.
You do?
The original Total Recall. I mean, I
think
tried to
you're
go back-
tragically overrated.
It's true. No, you'd have to be rated high to be overrated. So, I mean, I remember I went back and watched it a couple more times, and I'm just like, this just isn't that good. I don't know if
disagree.
this
I
is-
disagree.
most people disagree. I'm in the minority on this.
Why do you find it not good? Is it that you don't think the effects hold? Like, what is your problem?
Oh no, I don't mind dated films whose effects don't hold up, unless
Okay.
it's like only 3 years old.
Oh.
That's fine, because that's the era. You just come to expect that. It's just, I don't find the action particularly good.
There is so much
I-
broken glass in that movie.
There's
Are you blind?
Just because there's action doesn't mean there's good action. But anyway, I don't want to get off on a wild tangent
All
about
right.
why I don't like the
Okay.
original Total Recall, which I don't dislike it. It just
Okay.
doesn't really do it for me.
I'll
you have no
retract
soul.
my
We
claws.
already know that.
We're gonna keep it respectful this time. And my number 1 is that I was potentially a little embarrassing.
Good.
Independence Day.
No.
I saw that 6 times in the theaters when it was out. I did. I went back and I watched it like
Okay, I
6
feel
times
safe
in the
now.
theaters. I did.
I cannot agree.
It's
With this assessment, you guys. I really.
now what's wrong with
No.
you?
I wouldn't put
no.
it number 1 myself, but I really like that film. It's good.
so
You know, it reminds me a
good.
lot of a film I'm going to mention again in a second. It reminds me a lot of like The Rock. Not a lot of people go crazy, but for The Rock. But for me, it just worked. And Independence Day is one of those films for me. It just worked on that visceral
Well,
level.
certainly a lot of people agreed, according to the box office. For that
Yes.
movie.
And
but-
it's like Will Smith punches an alien, and Jeff Goldblum gets to, and Bill Pullman is the president. It's like, I
Yeah.
want to elect him for reals.
Yeah.
Like, let's just get Bill Pullman in there.
No, I'd elect Goldblum.
I was at a
It'd take him like an hour to get through a
I
speech.
know.
And then and the standing, and then you're like, this is the State of the Union. Move it along, Goldblum.
I was at a special screening of Spaceballs last year, and Dave Pullman was there, and he came out to do a speech, and they got him to do the speech from Independence Day, which was so much fun. So run down what your 3 again.
All right. Cobra, True Lies / Total Recall tie, cheating, and Independence Day.
Totally cheating, because then I could have True Lies as a tie on my third.
so
You be quiet.
for me, I have a 7-way tie for third. No, I'm not gonna. Okay, first of all, let me give some honorable mentions here. But first of all, before I do, my favorite, you're talking about subgenres of action films.
Yeah.
My absolute favorite subgenre of action films from the 80s and 90s that I grew up on, that I imitated, that I think influenced who I am as a man today,
Well.
is the 80s Shokasagi ninja movies.
Whoa.
Whether it's Pray for Death, Enter the Ninja. He even did a film with Jean-Claude Van Damme called Black Eagle, I believe it's called, where Jean-Claude Van Damme was like an evil Russian spy, and
course he was.
Shokasagi, and then the two of them had to
delicious
fight.
one.
And I mean, I love Shokasagi action films, and I'm leaving one off that list there because I'm going to have to come back to it.
Ooh,
But of
mystery.
course, you got films like I gotta mention films like First Blood.
Yes.
One that surprisingly few people have seen, going back to Jean-Claude Van Damme, the first Jean-Claude Van Damme
Right.
film, No Retreat, No Retreat, No Surrender, in which Jean-Claude Van Damme has to fight a kid who's being trained by the ghost of Bruce Lee.
Not Double Impact.
Not Double Impact, oddly enough.
Replicant.
Starship Troopers. I mean, talking
Yes.
about things that are just crazy over-the-top action,
Right.
brutally violent, but tries to be really funny. That movie just has a special place in
On
my
my
heart.
list, Starship Troopers tied with Showgirls. Go ahead.
Redefining
Police Story.
action.
Talking about foreign films, Police Story, I think, is an action film that you got to mention. The Lethal Weapons, absolutely. Die Hard. Okay, so Escape from New York. I can't believe I almost missed
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Can't believe I almost
But
missed that.
that's I love Escape from New York, but again,
Predator.
that's
Sorry.
Oh, we heard
None
a
of us
Predator
have mentioned
sneeze.
Predator. Actually,
Excuse me.
that
Predator.
Sorry,
at
that was-
least Predator. You're right.
a great
Predator
movie.
at least deserves an honorable mention on the
Yeah,
list.
Predator sneeze. We acknowledge you.
we acknowledge you, Predator. Sneeze.
For me, so tough. Okay, I'm going to pull a tie. Oh, no, I've already mentioned The Rock. I'm going to pull a tie as well.
Okay.
I'm going to tie it for third. I'm going to go Terminator 2,
Yes.
Okay, good.
which is not only great action, great effects, blah, blah, blah. It's iconic.
Yes.
Everybody,
In every way.
Yeah, it still stands up today. It's so
Yes.
great. And I'm going to tie that with Die Hard 2.
Okay.
Sorry. Die Hard 3 is what I meant to say.
Die Hard 3.
Die Hard 3.
Interesting. That
yes.
means Die Hard is on the list. The first Die Hard is either 1 or 2. This is what we can now
Die Hard.
surmise.
I mean, all the Die Hards are on my list in general, but going into my top 3. But yeah,
third?
I mean, although Hans Gruber is like one of the greatest screen villains ever,
Ever.
I think Jeremy Irons was also like the moment he said "Good Lord," I just died. I still do. No matter how many times I watch that film, I just die
Wasn't he
when
kind
he
of
says
blonde
that.
in that movie? Wasn't-
Jeremy Irons.
Yeah.
Yes.
Literally, the only thing that I can think of with Jeremy Irons is Reversal of Fortune. I don't know why.
Anytime they make a dude blonde, I feel like he's immediately evil.
Immediately
Such
evil
as
and
Javier
scary.
Bardem in the upcoming Skyfall.
Yeah, instantly creepy.
Or David.
Let me get back to my
Prometheus.
list here. So that's my tie for
Right.
third is Terminator 2 and Die Hard 3. At number 2 for me would be True Lies.
All of us
I-
love True Lies, you guys.
It's
I
great.
adore that film so much. Tom Arnold
Tom Arnold.
was born to be in that role, which is why he has been trying his hardest to get True Lies 2 made ever since. But I mean,
He mentions that in an interview that we did for the upcoming movie, Hit and Run. But he does talk about
Ooh.
how it's like, yeah, Dax was telling me it's my next True Lies. Like, I haven't heard that before.
he was born to be in that movie.
Yeah.
But everybody is so good in that film, and it's so funny. The action is so great. I mean, when Arnold's having the argument with the horse, I mean, come on. I mean, that might be his finest moment ever. But my number one, which I think most people still haven't watched, and it's not a foreign film, it is a North American release film. That was in theaters and everything. Going back to Shokasagi is Revenge of the Ninja. My all-time favorite action film, bar none. I mean, it was just so cool. I believe the first movie I ever saw where I saw boobs which also makes an impression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we
Okay.
understand why this is number one.
But no,
on the
they,
bullet.
but all the Shokasagi movies, if you haven't watched them, get on Netflix, find them somewhere, get on Craigslist and find them. Pray for Death, Enter the Ninja, Revenge
Get
of
on
the Ninja.
Craigslist.
There's a bunch of them.
Get
Are
on
there?
Craigslist.
That sounds dangerous.
Netflix.
Or Craigslist. You can find them for sale.
Oh,
Really?
I see
I
what
gave
you're
up
saying.
eBay ages ago. I just use
Okay.
Craigslist now to
That
buy
is,
stuff.
you're a
Oh,
dangerous human
Yes,
being.
and to do my predator, kind of activities.
It's like 2 in 1.
But that's it. But listen, folks, we actually hopped on Facebook on the AMC Theaters Facebook page, which if you don't like us, over 3 million people have. You should too. It's at facebook.com/AMC Theaters. And we asked our readers there about what they think are some of the greatest action films of the 80s and the 90s. And Ryan has got a few of your responses back there. Ryan, what do we got?
Well, coming from Miguel Michael Diaziel, Death Wish and all the Dirty Harry flicks.
Oh,
good
collectively.
Dirty Harry.
How do we
Really
forget
good
that?
call.
How,
Good call. Who wrote
in
that?
what universe do we forget Dirty Harry?
Who did that?
don't
Who put
know.
that
I
down?
know.
That is Miguel Michael
Miguel.
Diaziel.
Good man.
See,
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
Good
this,
man, Miguel.
this assignment is designed to make you ashamed of yourself.
Yes, it
we
is.
forgot
It
Dirty
is.
Harry.
God,
What else
like I
we
don't
got
do that
there?
enough already.
Next up, we have Die Hard 3 and Terminator 2 were some of the best action films of the 90s. That's Ryan Matthews.
Yep,
That's
absolutely.
agreed.
We obviously
No, it's
agree.
not undebatable. From Jim Love, The Octagon, Silent Rage, Eye for an Eye, Forced Vengeance, and Good Guys Wear Black. And I'm still waiting for Silent Rage
I
2.
can't believe I didn't at least honorably mention the Octagon.
I can't either. You
Oh.
suck.
Ooh, a shame.
I've never seen any of
shame.
those. I feel like a
But that's
a
one of the
failure as a
great
human
things
being.
about doing lists like these is that you'll
course.
have people throwing up movies like, oh my gosh, I haven't thought of that, or films that you haven't even heard of. That you go, okay,
Yeah.
I got to go back and watch it. I got to put some of those on my Netflix queue. I mean, like, I can't believe Octagon. How did I forget that?
How did you forget it? I've lost all faith now. I'm leaving.
What else we got there? Oh, sorry.
Big Trouble in Little China, can we say?
Yeah.
Can we,
Big Trouble in
can
Little
we,
China.
can
Yeah,
we
for
say
sure.
it like 10 times?
That's
You
totally an
like this
action-
man
action
up a high five
adventure.
3 times.
Is that, I just thought you were like, preach it, girl. That's
Preach.
what, anyway.
Big-
What else we got there?
I have,
Ryan?
I have a story for you about that later.
We got a few more here. Let's see. One more. So from Tierley Lamar Walker Owens. Lots of hard names
What a
today.
name. Love
Favorite
it.
action movies, 1985's. Oh man, Tango and Cash.
Yes.
Best
yes,
mix
yes.
of action
You
and
have
comedy
to bring that up when
by
discussing
Sly
movies, actually.
Stallone and Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Epic. I
Right.
have to agree. That truck, I always wanted that truck that they tricked out. That they like,
Yeah.
custom built. It's
We have to
amazing.
have Kurt Russell on there somewhere too.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Big
he
Trouble.
really-
Big Trouble in Tango and Cash.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 Very good call. Can we
Wasn't
also...
he in Bird on a Wire? Or was that?
Yes.
No.
No.
That was
No,
Mel.
That was Mel.
Gibson,
That was her
right.
But-
boyfriend.
I'm thinking of Overboard.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Also
Overboard.
That's what
with
I
Goldie
think
Hawn.
of.
Yes.
Goldie Hawn.
Can we count Roadhouse as action?
Oh,
Absolutely.
Swayze.
Absolutely, we
the
can count.
Sways. How
Right?
do we not have Roadhouse on this list?
I know.
There's so many good ones. Okay, that's a great one.
Because pain don't hurt.
Pain
And
don't
also be nice until it's time to not be nice.
And then you're going to kick a guy's head off.
Exactly. Yay.
Oh,
I
so
used
many
to-
roundhouse
That
kicks.
is really
I
nice.
used to
Throat
blank
ripping.
blanks
Oh,
like
he
you
rips
in
his
prison.
throat out. That's
I
right.
think there's throat ripping.
Yeah,
in
there's
Roadhouse.
throat ripping. You're right.
There's
That's
throat-
right, he
there's
How
throat
can that
ripping.
not be in the
But of course,
list?
like my favorite line is, of course, I used to blanks like you in prison.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this movie's badass. All right, well, folks, listen, keep writing in the chat board, and if you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere, we'd love for you to jump in the comments section and
Yes.
throw in some more movies that we have, disgraced ourselves
Disgraced
by leaving
ourselves.
out.
It's embarrassing.
We'd love to hear that. So listen, time to move on to the next topic here. Indiana Jones is coming back to AMC theaters. We are so excited about this and so proud of this event. On September 15th, that's a Saturday, starting at 10:30 in the morning, AMC Theaters is holding the Indiana Jones: The Complete Adventure Marathon.
That's awesome.
Where for $25 for a ticket, you get all 4 films, you get a collector's poster, collector's lanyard, and if you're an AMC Stubs member, which you should be, I've mentioned it before, you get 5 extra AMC bonus bucks, all for $25. I know I am going to be there. I'm so excited about it. You can, we'll put in links in the show notes where you can get more information on this. And where you can buy your tickets and which theaters are participating in it. It's in a lot of theaters. You should be able to find one close to you.
That's so cool. It's going to be great to see those on Blu-ray.
Oh, I'm so excited to see it back on the big screen. I haven't watched Raiders of the Lost Ark on the big screen in like forever. But that got, once again, us to thinking about, and this will be a much shorter topic than the last one, but what other films would be great? Because last year, AMC, we brought back Back to the Future films.
Right.
which was a lot of fun. We've done this a few times, and we'll do it more in the future. But it made me wonder about what other films would we really like to see brought back to the big screen. So, Gray, let me start with you. What are some films that you'd really like to see back on the big screen?
Well, my thing, like, I kept thinking of all of these action movies because I got like Expendables. Oh god, and Cobra got me all excited for Sylvester Stallone again in my heart. But I wanna see the Rocky movies on the big screen.
Oh, like a Rocky marathon.
I want to
That'd be
see a
fun.
marathon because they're
Except
not
for
all
Rocky
gr-
5, yeah.
Except for that one, but
And actually, I kind of liked Rocky 5. I should take that back.
the crown jewel in the Rocky crown, I think, is 4 because
Agreed.
there are robots in it,
Yeah.
and also Brigitte Nielsen. So
Brigitte Nielsen, who got herself. Do you know how she got herself in that movie?
Oh, I can't wait to hear.
I'm about to tell you. Okay, so this is in the day of fax machines. She faxed Sylvester Stallone bit by bit a picture of her in like, I don't know if it was a bikini or a bra and underwear or whatever, but it was her showing off her body, and he had to put it together like a puzzle. And at the end of it, he had this life-size picture of Brigitte Nielsen, like,
What?
up? And then they got together, and it was lovely.
that's
Do you?
brilliant.
I love this. Do you remember that old 80s British show called Spitting Image with the puppets that they used in the Land of Confusion video with
Yes.
with Phil Collins?
Right.
I remember I watched an episode of that once, and it was, remember this is just a joke, but it's when Sylvester Stallone and Brigitte Nielsen were divorcing, and it was them in divorce court. And Sylvester Stallone was suing her. You know, when you have kids, you try to get visitation
Yeah.
or whatever. He was suing because his argument was that because he paid for her breast augmentation, that he should have weekend visitation rights to
With her
them.
breasts?
With her breasts.
That's the best
That
thing
was-
I've ever heard.
that was on that was on the
I love
show.
Hollywood.
I love that so much. But anyway, where were we?
We were talking
We're
about Rocky.
talking-
Oh yeah, Rocky. Yes.
Boobs always derails the conversation. Just so yeah, I would really like to see those again because I know that here in Los Angeles, like we're lucky enough to have
Yeah.
a lot of revival theaters.
We do.
So we get to see so much stuff
Yeah.
on the big screen, and Rocky 4 just came and went, which is exciting. But I want to see all of them because I just feel like there's so much punching goodness to be had.
Yeah, there really is.
I
Those
want
are
his
fun.
fist to be as big as Volkswagen Beetles again. So yeah.
What about
That's
you,
my big
Roth?
one.
I'm such a freaking nerd because then when I'm like, what do I want to see on the big screen? I want to see like the really pretty movies that are on the big screen. Like I want to see City of Lost Children, and I want to
Good
see
call.
right, and I want to see In the Mood for
Janelle.
Love, and I want to see Pan's Labyrinth and The Third and Red Line again, and I want to see. There's a
All
lot
right,
of
let me
these
be
that-
the wet blanket, though.
wet blanket.
Let me be the wet blanket here.
What else is
They're
new,
pretty.
John?
In talking, okay, I'm not saying they're not pretty, but in talking about bringing movies back to the big screen, I mean,
Fine.
you want like Rocky because of those fight sequences, and Rocky 4 when he's running through the Russian mountains and everything,
Right.
and the movie's so big and it's so popular. Popularity's got to come into consideration
Okay.
because you got to have actually people who'd want to come back to the theater to watch it.
So for that kind of communal, so these are some of the films that I would like to see on the big screen. However, for that kind of fun communal experience, I would say for either Christmas or Halloween, preferably Christmas, Gremlins. You know?
Oh, I'm on board with
You
that.
know?
That's great.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
I'd love to see the Gremlins on the big screen again.
I would love to see Gremlins on the big screen too. And then you could do maybe a couple directorial sort of marathons. You could do early Spielberg and have E.T. and Close Encounters, and then
Oh,
Jaws.
that's a great idea.
That's a good
And
call.
and Scorsese too, but again, that's not quite as popular. So maybe we'll stick with Spielberg.
Well, but like anything. Oh, like let's start thinking about Pacino and De Niro.
I mean,
and, like,
that's the thing.
Heat
You could
and,
do a
like-
crime movie marathon where
Yeah.
you could take different directors and have different crime films. or
Let me
things like
let me
that.
run down a couple I just threw down here quick, and I know a couple of them are going to have a lot of people rolling their eyes at. I would love a 2-film marathon of the original 2 Superman movies, Superman 1 and Superman 2.
That's a good call.
Somebody just said that in the chat room.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah, literally echoing.
Perfect. So,
Yeah.
I
Joe,
don't-
Joe B182 just said, I want to see Superman 1 and 2 back in the
Yeah,
theater.
Nicely
don't
done.
need 3 and 4,
Yeah.
but give me 1 and 2. Jaws was one I was going to mention.
Yeah.
That's a great one. I
Yeah.
mean, we need a bigger boat.
I've
I mean,
never seen that on, and
I've never seen it on a big screen
I've
either.
never
Actually,
seen
neither
it.
have I. And you're right. We got the opportunity to see a lot of movies on the big screen, and I haven't seen Jaws on the big screen either. I would love that.
I
But
recently
not a Jaws marathon. That's where it has to be a
No,
Spielberg
yeah.
I don't need to see
marathon.
Michael Caine fighting a 3D Jaws
I
in
do
the
not-
Caribbean.
No.
I don't need to
I
see
do
that.
if I'm drunk.
Okay, sure. I also want to mention pulling in an animated film, I'd love to see Aladdin back on the big screen.
Oh,
I have
that's a good call.
lot of great younger memories watching
All good
Aladdin.
teenagers take off their clothes. Is what they say.
Then two that I think people might roll their eyes at.
My love?
I'd love to see Gladiator on the big screen again. I really, I'm so in the minority. I think it is Ridley Scott's best film.
No, you're
I know, I'm totally in the
completely
minority.
wrong about
I am
that.
Totally, that's not to downgrade how great his other films are either. I really loved Gladiator. And
That was a big screen movie. You're right about that, for sure.
And then the
Russell
other
Crowe was
one,
great.
this is the biggest out of left field one that everybody rolled their eyes at. I want to see Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves on the big screen again.
Oh,
I
God.
think that would be great.
Then I
to
get
bring
to
back
see
Sheriff of
Koyaanisqatsi.
and the movie made a lot of money. You're talking about
If you
Morgan
if
Freeman.
you get to see Robin Hood, Prince of
1
Thieves,
second.
I get to see Baraka, Kurosawa's Dreams, Pan's
But nobody
Labyrinth.
saw those. Here's the thing, though, about that too as well. We already talked about how Hans Gruber is like one of the greatest screen villains of all time. But I'm sorry, his Sheriff of Nottingham was so funny and
Right.
so great.
Make the stitches small.
Yes. Why a spoon, cousin? Because it'll hurt more. You ate 30 and bring a friend.
Nitwit.
I mean, it's so good. And I would love that. Just there's some nostalgic thing there. Everything.
What about
anyway,
Apocalypse
When he
Now?
schedules the prostitutes,
Would you like to see
like
that?
Apocalypse Now
you,
would be a good
3
one.
o'clock,
Yeah.
3:10, bring a friend.
Bring a friend. Yeah.
Have you guys seen Apocalypse Now on the big screen?
No,
No.
never seen a big screen.
I
That would
did
be a
in
good
film
one.
school, but I would like to do it again.
Okay.
What about also a Tom Hanks early comedy marathon?
Freak yes! I
What?
almost.
Right?
Like that got me so excited that I almost broke our rule and cursed. Like, what are we talking? Tell me what we're talking about.
Like, think about it. Like,
Don't say Joe and the Volcano.
Joe versus the Volcano
Or
is one of my
versus the
favorite films of all time.
Really?
Yeah, we're gonna engage in fisticuffs now.
Wow.
Yes, that's a great film. Meg
no, I
Ryan
think
in
we
3 different roles in the same movie.
Splash.
Yes.
Well, Splash.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean that's
Love.
quintessential Tom
that
Hanks.
and I like. What about like maybe a little Money Pit?
Well, if I don't mention this, I really could be heading to divorce court immediately after
Uh-oh.
this show. If I don't say big, my
Right,
wife
yeah.
will literally
No,
up and leave me.
She is
today.
hot. You
So
have
it's
to make her
basically
happy.
Tom Hanks pre-Philadelphia is what we're talking about.
Right.
Those are the rules.
Philadelphia, great movie. Total bummer town.
Well, listen, we're going to take a little bit of a break here for just a second. But once again, we already mentioned that opening up in AMC theaters everywhere this weekend, a film that we all really like is The Expendables 2. Such an improvement over the last one.
Yes.
So good. You can get your tickets for that film right now by going to www.amctheaters.com. But recently, I had a chance to sit down and talk to the cast of The Expendables, and we already shared one of those interviews with you last show. But right now, we're talking about one of our favorite characters in this film is Gunner.
Gunner.
I want to share with you my conversation that I had recently with Rocky IV's and The Expendables Part 2, Dolph Lundgren. Here, check it out.
Dolph.
We love Dolph.
One of the things that was really most interesting about the film to me was out of all the characters in the team, Gunner's the guy we got to get to know a little bit more and get to know and see new layers to him that we didn't see in the original one. When you guys were first talking about the second film and what you guys wanted Gunner to be, what were those conversations like? Where did you want to go with him?
Well, I was disappointed with the first draft of the script that I saw, of the second picture, because Gunner was kind of just there throwing a few grenades, you know, like, hey, how about me? Can I kill somebody? And there was nothing really there. There was really nothing there for him to do. And I didn't want to make the picture, even because I loved the first one so much, and Sly did a great job directing me and playing a cool character. And so I was disappointed, and but I knew that Sly hadn't worked on the script because he was doing another picture. So I talked to him, and he assured me that he was going to find some interesting ideas, which he did. And you know, when you put a film together, you edit it, some of it's got to go. So there was much more fun stuff with Gunner, you know, and some of it is in the film and some isn't, but I think there's enough there to make him kind of interesting.
You know, I remember we walked out of the screening last night, and a bunch of us said, you know what? If this was playing again right now, we would turn around and go back in and watch because it's so much fun. Now, any movie can put a bunch of guns in some guy's hands and shoot guns, but it doesn't necessarily make it fun. What is it about The Expendables 2 that brings that element that makes it so enjoyable to watch?
Well, I guess some of it is to cast, I think, you know, because a lot of these guys are like underdog types, you know, real guys like Terry Crews and Randy. They're like real quiet, tough guys, you know, like you want on your side in real life. And they just play themselves. And it kind of, when they crack a joke, it's funnier than when you have a comedian crack a joke. You know, you kind of expect it, but sometimes with these guys, it's so real and the jokes play better somehow. I don't know how to explain it, but maybe something like that.
And you get into these action films, and sometimes they can just rely on the action to make it entertaining. But one of my favorite parts of this film so much is the camaraderie and the chemistry between the characters and the dialogues and this. What was that chemistry like actually between you guys on set?
Well, the chemistry's there. I mean, it's the second film. We know each other now. I've known some of these guys like Arnold and Sly for many years. I got to know Terry and Randy much better in this film, on the last one. But, you know, if you have Arnold and Stallone and Bruce Willis in a scene together, I mean, you got to have some fun. You got to poke some fun at the 80s and the 90s. Otherwise, you're not doing your job as a filmmaker in this scenario. But, you know, we're friends on set. We crack a lot of jokes behind the camera, too. But, you know, Stallone is the leader, and he's the one who kind of grouped us together. Like, you know, I'm with Randy and Terry a lot, like the Three Stooges, he calls us. We do all the heavy lifting, kill most people, you know. And then you got, like, this kind of the more, the kind of lover boys, like, you know, like Statham, Stallone a little more, and then you have like the bad guys, you know, Jean-Claude, and so we kind of group together and we make jokes in these little groups, you know, amongst each other.
Well, listen, congratulations on the film. I thought you were great in it. We can't wait to have it on.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, we're back. And good spot for us to come back. Once again, folks, don't forget you can get your tickets for Expendables 2 right now at amctheaters.com. Look, for this next topic, we generally do not like talking. I don't have time for movie gossip and celebrity gossip. It's a complete waste of time. But every once in a while, the gossip world, the celebrity gossip world, will have a direct impact on actual movie news. And so we're kind of in a position where we need to bring this up.
It is our duty. Nay, it is our honor.
Nay, it is our privilege.
Kristen Stewart.
I still love you. Okay.
Kristen Stewart, according to Will Ferrell, the Trampire.
Unnecessary roughness.
I just love that skit.
Unnecessary.
I am not calling her a Trampire.
You just did.
Did you see the Will Ferrell thing where he was on the talk show?
No.
He was on, who's the redhead talk show host again?
Kathy Griffin.
Conan.
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 Conan O'Brien is
He was on Conan. Okay, Will Ferrell's on Conan O'Brien. I'm going to put a link to this in the show notes, so check the show notes when you have a chance. But he's on Conan O'Brien and acting all upset, and Conan O'Brien's like, "What's wrong?" And Will Ferrell's like, "Well," he's acting all upset. He's like, "I don't know if you've heard, but Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson broke up."
Oh, God.
And he goes, getting really upset, and goes, "And it's just so awful because they were in love, and you would never know." He's like, "I've been in love." He's like, "Not like them." And so he's like all upset. And then Will Ferrell starts going off about, "How could she do this? She's a trampire." It was quite
hilarious.
I'm sorry. I thought
That
everybody
is
had seen
in
that
fact
would know what I was referencing. Apparently not. But, of course, it's quite well known now that Kristen Stewart, while shooting Snow White and the Huntsman, had an affair with the director of the film, the Married with Kids director of the film, Rupert Sanders. And of course, apparently, Charlize Theron got quite close with his family during that thing, and now she's been saying really bad things about Kristen Stewart. And
Has she really?
Yeah, apparently.
I had not heard that portion of it.
I heard she was mad.
Quite upset.
Nobody likes Charlize when she's angry.
No.
And this has got a lot of people wondering. Oh, it's like, okay, well, this stings. This stings. Now, even before Snow White and the Huntsman was released, the studios had greenlit Snow White and the Huntsman 2. Actually, they had signed, this is not unusual, but they had signed the cast on for 3 films.
Yeah, and they
with
were
an option for 3 films.
Yeah. And Sanders and David Cope were working on the script.
Right.
That seems weirdly optimistic.
Right. Well, I guess they thought the buzz was good enough and everything, so they said they were going to do that.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, it was good.
and after the film was done, they said, "Yep, we're going ahead." The script was already well in progress. They were working on Snow White and the Huntsman 2. And they had plans that after Snow White and the Huntsman 2, they may spin off and do a Huntsman movie as a spin-off.
Right.
Well, the controversy and the
ship has fallen apart.
And the Huntsman.
Everything has sunk. Snow White has bit the apple.
Yes.
Apparently, what is being reported is that the studio has decided to axe Kristen Stewart and Snow White.
Yes.
Apparently, from the next film in general.
Entirely.
And they're just going to move ahead with the plans to move ahead with a Huntsman movie, which I actually don't mind because I thought Chris Hemsworth
Yes,
Woo!
was the
was
best
the best
part
part of that movie. I mean, aside from maybe Charlize Theron.
I don't agree. I think it was Chris Hemsworth. I actually wasn't all that impressed with her queen.
Are
But anyway,
you insane?
no. Maybe,
You're
but either way,
insane.
I wasn't impressed with the
Okay,
queen.
anyway.
I really wasn't.
so, okay, so
You
here's
didn't like
the
her
question.
crazy eyes.
I thought that it was I thought she was going to bring a lot more to it than she did. It felt like actually a lot more traditional interpretation than I was expecting. I liked
Wow.
the backstory though.
I cannot disagree with you more on that, but it does raise the question. Two questions, actually, particularly. Do you think this is let's not say the right or the wrong. Let's go with the phrase understandable. Do you think, should this all be absolutely true, and that's what the reports are, but should this all be true, is this an understandable move by the studios, or do you think there's no need for them to axe her from it? And like, what do you think? Gray, let's start with Gray on this, and we'll go to the right.
I think this is a bunch of hooey. I have also heard that Universal is saying officially that this is not true. That they haven't decided yet, and she's not off anything. And I think it's a brilliant.
I've heard that too, but I cannot find an actual statement from Universal anywhere.
Oh,
although I've
okay.
heard that.
Well,
but anyway.
look at therap.com. And the thing about it is that I think it is malarkey that they are punishing her for something that happened outside of I don't think that that's the right thing to do. This is not the first star that's misbehaved and done something like this.
and it's no one's business.
Yes, it is the first very high-profile couple from a very popular film franchise. I get it, but I think that sucks, and that they shouldn't punish her in a completely different franchise because she's actually like pretty interesting, and I thought she was good in that movie. And I hope it's not true, because of what the precedent that it seems to set.
Absolutely.
That disturbs me. Like, if Hollywood is going to start judging people like more so than they already do and taking away their jobs because of what they do behind closed doors when they like to make out sexy time with people, then we're in trouble. We're in huge trouble.
Roth?
Yeah, and it's a massive, massive, massive double standard. Look, I'm not going to sit here and gossip, but I think that we all know.
No, let's.
No, I mean, I think we all know, and that the world knows of plenty of married or otherwise engaged male stars and directors that are hanky-panking around the trailer time, and they're not getting pulled from their franchises for it. Absolutely. Even when they maybe, I don't know, impregnate one of their stars. I'm not saying what I'm talking about, but you probably know what I'm talking about. This person isn't getting pulled out of jobs for having done that when he was married with kids. So the idea that Kristen Stewart is going to have some kind of scarlet letter on her forehead is ridiculous. First of all, she is not married to Robert Pattinson. Rupert Sanders was married with kids. I'm not saying that I agree with what she did.
Sure.
I happen to have pretty high standards about that. I do not believe in going after another woman's man. I don't like it when women do that. I don't think you should have sex with a married man. However, I am not here to
quote you on that.
impose my moral point of view on somebody else. That is their life and their decisions. Also, they seemingly have not only pulled her from it, but pulled Sanders. They optioned a book for him to direct, supposedly, reportedly, rather than going forward. And they've pulled David Cope from the project. So basically, the only one left standing is Chris Hemsworth at this point. Supposedly, that is the only one left standing.
Okay.
Having
and on that
said
note,
that,
they're going to CG Kristen Stewart out of the Breaking Dawn Part 2.
having said that, and Jodie
Poor
Foster,
Renesmee doesn't
Jodie
have a
Foster, who also was with her in acted with her in Panic Room, came out and wrote this whole letter about how ridiculous the situation was. Having said that, I wouldn't be opposed to a Huntsman movie. He really was the best part of the movie.
Right. Now, okay, it's time once again for John now to bring the sanity to the conversation.
Boo.
Great
Piss.
job.
Of course this would, if true, of course this is an understandable move.
What?
This is not about a studio or Hollywood judging somebody's morals. I got news for you. Hollywood don't care one squat about morals at all. This is the studio going, this is now bad business for us. This is not just any Hollywood whatever. Right now, Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson, who I don't believe for a second are a real couple in
No,
real
I
life
don't either.
anyway.
That's the other thing. They are
But-
not a real couple. I think that's a whole
that
PR
being
stunt.
that being said, because of who she is right now, this has caused. I was joking about the Will Ferrell thing, but there are a lot of fans out there who are having that reaction. And if a studio, it doesn't matter what studio, thinks for a second that having her moving forward, knowing this one thing was so high profile, if they think for 1 minute that moving forward this could hurt us from a business point of view, this could hurt our box office, this could hurt the interest from fans and the fan community coming to it, then you make a business decision and say, then let's cut that out and move on to the next thing. If we fear that having Kristen Stewart and Sanders together again, having all these fans who are really upset about it, whether they should or shouldn't be upset is a completely different issue, and I happen to side with you guys on that. But whether they should or shouldn't is irrelevant. Does it create an impact? Does it have an effect? And if a studio thinks this could have an effect on our bottom line, then I believe it's not only understandable, but perfectly acceptable that they would make a business decision and say, we need to cut her out of this.
It's not going to affect the box office because everyone's going to go to see it.
It's in
Everyone
fact probably
wants-
going to help the box
You're
office.
wrong.
No,
You're
because the
wrong.
people
Like
that
Twilight's not going to be affected.
Yeah.
No, I
Twilight
agree.
won't
No.
be
I'm not
affected.
talking about Twilight. I'm not talking about anything else. I don't think this should or will have any effect on her or her career outside of Snow White and the Huntsman. But I believe when you're still talking about the exact same property with where it all happened, I think it makes for a smart business. I think that will affect the box office. People are still going to go see Twilight.
Well, I'm
Absolutely.
tired of you men always talking about business. I want to talk about my feelings.
Well, frankly, I don't know that time will tell if this is a really good decision financially, and you can't know because they'd have to make 2 movies to really gauge that.
But do you
wouldn't
honestly
they?
think this would have, if they came out next year with The Snow White and the Huntsman 2 with Kristen Stewart and with Sanders still on, you really believe that the fan community, no problem. They would have no problem with it and still all go see it in normal numbers?
I really believe this. I really believe that the percentage of the people that would go out of morbid curiosity would make up for the percentage of people that want to throw a fit over someone else's life.
Let me bring up an example. Your Honor, if it pleases the court, I presented evidence.
We'll see if it pleases us.
Yeah, the name of the film, which is eluding me right now, you'll remember it right away. Meg Ryan and Russell Crowe.
Oh,
Proof
No,
of
no,
life.
whoa. No, let me
Proof of
finish.
Life
Proof
is
of
the
Life.
movie.
Proof of Life.
That film was tracking well. And then the whole thing came out before the movie was released. And that movie tanked.
But
2 huge stars that was tracking well, but it broke up a popular celebrity couple. Interest in the film dropped through the floor, and people didn't go to see it.
Great counter. However, let's talk about time because
Sure.
time is going to be a factor. Like,
Yeah.
I guarantee that Twilight's going to come out in November. The next Snow White and the Huntsman wouldn't even come out till probably Christmas of
True.
not even like of not even next year, maybe. Maybe we'd have to wait 2
yeah.
summers for it. No, nobody's going to remember. What are you kidding? By that point, Justin Bieber's going to have an illegitimate love child.
Exactly, if he doesn't already. Nobody's going to remember. Nobody's going to care. And also, it may be revealed, although I doubt it because I'm sure there's lots of contractual things around this, that as I believe, they are not a real couple. I don't believe for a second that Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson were ever a real couple. I think that was 1,000% a PR stunt.
Oh, I agree with you. But would you at least concede? Because on the moral issue, I'm totally on your guys' side. We shouldn't care. But would you at least concede that if execs at the studio think, okay, this could hurt us, we don't know what this will do to Kristen Stewart and the rest of her career. I don't think it'll affect the rest of her career at all. But we're not sure what this will do with the rest of her career. We don't know where we're going to be in 3 years. We think this could hurt us. If that's the case, would you at least concede that it becomes understandable that they would want to make a move like this?
I guess I would.
No.
All right.
You make a fine
Hey,
point.
listen, we do need to move on from this. We'd love to hear what you guys think. This is a hot topic, so go ahead and leave your comments in the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube, or if you're watching live, go ahead in the chat board. Right now, I want to bring this to the segment. We have an email address, by the way, folks. If you're not watching this live, you can email us anytime, 24/7, at fycpodcastshow@gmail.com. That's fycpodcastshow@gmail.com. You can email us 24/7 with topics you'd like us to discuss, comments you'd like to make.
Pictures.
Presents.
Please do not send us any pictures, and we can take your questions. And we've got a bunch of them in right now. Ryan's got a few of them. So, Ryan, what do we got from the mailbag?
From the mailbag, we have one from James. This is a lengthy one, so I'm going to have to take a deep breath here.
Okay.
As an add-on to your Serenity Firefly talk in the last podcast, I've got a 3-part question. Part 1. There was talk of a Buffy reboot film without Joss Whedon a while back. Is that project dead? Part 2. Would you like to see a Buffy movie on screen overseen by Joss Whedon, even if he got one of the former writers, directors like Drew Goddard to actually direct it? Part 3. Finally, does his Marvel deal prevent him from doing more web-based projects such as Dr. Horrible 2, a project called Wastelanders he was developing with Warren Ellis, and a comic book such as the already planned Buffy Season 10? James.
Part 1, I believe there was a huge uproar when they were talking about rebooting Buffy without Joss Whedon. I believe it died.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, so that's the part 1 of the
to.
question. It died as it should have died.
Yeah.
But the reason,
Too
having said it
soon.
should have died, also flows back into the second question. Would you like to see a new Buffy movie, presumably with the original cast and stuff? No, it's done. It's put to bed. It's finished. It had a very long, almost overstayed its welcome a little bit.
Hey.
I'm not saying it wasn't wonderful, whatever, but a lot of people feel that show maybe ended 1 or 1.5 seasons too late.
They usually do.
I would not have missed that affair between Buffy and Spike for anything.
And then
We're getting to be about. I mean, it's about that time, though.
Yeah.
You know, where people have the interest in it is sustained for so long that I don't know. I mean, if Joss Whedon did it,
Yeah.
I would be into it because
would
he
be
could
too.
come up with a way for them to come back.
To have it make sense, so it wasn't just sort of shoehorned in or
Basically,
didn't, you know.
yeah, like at this point in Joss We Trust, it's like for me, anytime someone asks, would you like Joss Whedon to do blank? The answer is yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Would you like him to come clean your
Sure.
bathroom? Yes.
Certainly.
But generally
Well,
speaking,
yeah,
I would like to
especially.
see him do about 20 different other things aside from
True.
going back to a
Before
Buffy
Buffy.
thing.
Very
but I
true.
think you're right. And then the third thing, does the new deal with Marvel prevent him from doing all these other things you mentioned?
about
I believe
time?
it does.
Let me open up the contract. No, I don't know.
It's
I
a
mean,
3-year deal
yeah, it's a
that he's
3-year
supposed to be now giving a helping
exclusive.
hand, an exclusive deal that he's supposed to be lending a helping hand to all the other movie properties, helping develop this alleged ABC show, and writing and
It is
getting
not-
ready.
why is it
Hold on a second. And getting ready to write and direct and preparing the next Avengers.
Yeah.
He just don't have
I
time.
don't-
Exactly.
yeah.
Time.
I don't think he would have time. He really, like we said, just taking on the Avengers. He took on the Avengers and then on vacation, like directed Shakespeare and things like that. So he doesn't rest well, is my suspicion about
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
But he looked half dead, and so I don't.
He
think
did. He really did.
Marvel owns him. I don't think they're going to let him breathe for the next 3
Yeah.
years.
All right, let's move on to the next question.
All
Thanks,
right.
James.
From Jasper, we have, hi, I really love the show. On to the question, what are your thoughts on the in-development Jurassic Park 4 and a potential 5th Indiana Jones film?
Oh, they need to fix Indy. I don't know. Oh dear.
Is there any redeeming indie?
golly,
point?
because that last movie, like I haven't seen it since the first time that I saw it on screen, but I thought it was kind of a train wreck.
Maybe if it's aliens and gremlins this time.
You know what? Dennis and I, Dennis Zen, our producer over here, who you don't see on camera, we had a talk yesterday, and I remember saying this. When I walked out of the 4th Indiana Jones film, which I did not like, but I remember thinking to myself, and it's impossible to tell this for sure, but I remember thinking to myself, if I just watched that exact same movie, but it was called Joe Adventure and the Alien City
Plus monkeys.
and Monkeys.
Long title,
if it
you
was
guys.
called that, I remember
Really
sitting
long.
back and thinking to myself, you know what? If it wasn't for the fact that I was wanting Indiana Jones and I just watched
Right.
that as some nondescript
Yes.
action film, I might not have disliked it that much. I might have
Right.
thought that was okay. But the fact of the matter is, it was an Indiana Jones film. I think most of us agree it was not up to par with what we were hoping for an Indiana Jones film.
I said train wreck. Yes.
But I mean, George Lucas keeps talking about maybe doing a 5th one. I think it's too late.
George
I-
Lucas, leave us
Yeah,
alone.
I don't
think
think
we
it'll
gotta let it
happen.
go.
I think they'll let it go. As far as Jurassic Park 4, that's another one that they've been talking about for about 5 years now.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs. Let's
I-
do it.
I want to see it just because it's stupid fun, but I don't think it's going to happen.
You know, I actually just rewatched the 3rd one,
Did
and
you?
it might have been because I was like
Drunk?
hanging.
High?
Well, yes. When am I not? Is a much easier question to answer. But like hanging out with my parents, and we'd been watching a series of movies, and then Jurassic Park 3 comes on. It was good. That was the one where the pterodactyls show up, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
because
I didn't mind-
They
I didn't
come
mind
into
number
the
3.
city.
I
No,
li-
that's number 2.
No, that's number 2. Okay.
I liked it so much better than I remembered. So I say 4. It's like, let's bring it, but bring it in a way that's consistent with the others, that you use not as much CG, and you maybe keep some of the.
And you would have
puppetry in
to
there.
bring back who would be terribly slow at presidential speeches.
Oh, Jeff Goldblum.
You'd have to bring back Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Well,
Of
it would
course.
basically be a Jeff Goldblum vehicle once again.
America.
I think. I mean,
Must
I
go
think
faster,
it could be
must go
fun
faster.
depending. Everything's going to depend on the script.
All right.
The
We got to
deficit.
keep moving here. Let's move on to the next question.
How's my Jeff Goldblum?
All right,
Is it
so
really
for
good?
the next question, we've got Rich. Rich says, okay, so I'm the kind of guy who wishes Kevin James would just disappear from the movies altogether.
Oh gosh, you're not alone.
Everything he's done has been awful. But then,
Okay, obviously you haven't seen Paul Blart Mall Cop.
But then I saw the trailer for Here Comes the Boom. Well, I won't say much. I just really want to know how you think it looks, especially you, John, because I follow your Twitter, and I know you're a big MMA guy. Didn't you train with Randy Couture?
Oh.
What a good question.
Okay, first of all, no, I did not. Let me be really clear. I did not train with Randy Couture. I trained at his gym, but I did not train
That's
with
the
Randy
same.
Couture.
Same thing. Come on.
I'd like to say the same thing. Okay,
John stood in the back of the room and copied all of his moves, like, quietly. And
First of all, Zookeeper was one of the most horrible films I've seen in a really long
How
time.
dare you? Cher as a lion was brilliant.
I remember watching that movie at CinemaCon in Vegas with all these exhibitor reps, all these people in suits and ties, and everybody was asleep. Now, that being said, when I heard about Here Comes the Boom, if you don't know, Kevin James plays a school teacher who
Yeah.
decides to raise money for the kids by getting into MMA because he was a high school wrestler.
Right.
Sounds ridiculously awful.
Mm-hmm.
I like the trailer.
so did I.
I think it
I-
sounds
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks funny. And the fact that they've got a guy like, by the way, that gym that I trained at with Randy Couture, he co-owned with another MMA legend by the name of Boss Rutan, who used to be a roommate with Kevin James. And Boss Rutan is actually in Here Comes the Boom. He's in the trailer.
That's the best name ever.
Ever.
Boss Rutan, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's also one of the
Besides
toughest
Hail
men alive.
Caesar.
And I watched this thing, and I'm like, I'm just expecting myself to hate it, and then 20 seconds in, okay, I'm gonna hate it any second, and then we're about a minute and a half into it, I'm like, okay, any second now I'm gonna start to hate it, and then the trailer ends, and I'm like, I actually laughed a couple of times in that. I thought it looked cute. I thought it looked charming. Look, I'm not a big fan of Kevin James in films either, but give credit where credit is due. I think this looks like it has potential.
I'm not a big fan of the idea that Kevin James could be an MMA fighter. Like, stop it.
But
No,
You
can't.
racist.
okay, now I'm going to tell you right now. When you look at him in the trailer, when you freeze frame the
He's
trailer,
ripped.
first of all, and it's not just fat. His arms are about this big. And you look at some MMA fighters like Big Country, Roy Nelson. You look at some MMA fighters; they're heavier guys. But when I watched the trailer, I'm just expecting Kevin James to look big, fat, and flabby. That's not the chest of a big, fat, flabby guy. He is a big, strong dude who's been training with Boss
sound
Rutan.
like you
I'm
like that
so
a lot.
oddly aroused right
You
now.
know, you really,
Um,
you're sounding a little scary.
But
here,
it
John.
That's my
actually,
job.
It actually looks pretty good, I think.
To arouse
I mean,
myself.
look, it
Wait.
could be terrible, but I watch it. I'm like, okay, sign me up. I'm in.
Kevin James is good at what Kevin James does, and I always think his movies are dumb, but there's obviously a big audience for them.
Yes.
Like people maybe with kids that they want a comedy that's not so edgy, and he's charming and he's made some real stinkers. But most of the time, I think his movies are like really middle of the road. They don't make me want to kill myself after I've watched them.
That's
and
a lie.
so this movie, like. Here Comes the Boom scene. It's like Warrior, but it's dumb.
It's not like Warrior
Yeah, it
at
is.
all.
But I
Yeah,
will
it
say
is.
this too.
Wow.
One
It's a
of
teacher that it's just Joel Edgerton.
Stop. Oh my God, you guys
What-
are killing me.
one
That's the
of
same
I'm
story.
going to say this. One of the most genuinely nice guys in the celebrity world I've ever sat down and talked to. Like I've had a chance to interview him a
That's
couple
nice.
times, and he is so genuinely nice.
Let's
Just
ask
such a nice guy.
Randy Couture what he thinks of it.
I would love to
That's
ask
what I
Randy.
wanna
Anyway, we got to
hear.
keep moving here. What else do we got here,
Comedy.
Ryan?
If that's fair.
All right, the last question from the mailbag is from Samantha Morgan. And Samantha
All right,
says,
Samantha, get the ladies in there.
I always do. Wait, what? Totally love the show. Don't see a lot of movie shows with intelligent women. What's a movie show? I don't know.
Why, thank you. I will make sure
movie
to tell
shows
Amy
about
Rose you
movies.
said that.
Gotcha.
Hey.
I thought she was talking about a movie. Jenna, Roth, Gray, Amy Rose, Jen, you're becoming my heroes. I actually went and bought an Apple TV so I could watch the show on my TV.
Whoa,
Yay.
that's awesome.
Thanks
that's
for the
awesome.
suggestion, John.
You're welcome.
Samantha goes on to say, so here's my question. We've seen a couple of posters of Arnold Schwarzenegger recently in The Tomb and Last Stand. I know you liked him in Expendables, but can people still buy a 65-year-old Arnold as an action star? good question.
That's a great question.
It is.
I didn't even hear it.
The thing is, we've seen a couple pictures recently of Arnold Schwarzenegger in The Tomb and The Last Stand.
Right.
The question was, can audiences still buy
Him as
a
65
65-year-old action star in Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No.
You're like, what's the
I've
question?
honestly, I've been wondering about this. Like, I'm excited about the return of Arnold. But I have wondered, are we going to be able to buy the 65-year-old action star? Now, I'll say this: Expendables 2, he doesn't do a lot, but it renewed my faith a little bit. Like, he's still moving around, and he's still he still has the Arnold. He's still got the Arnold charm,
He's
the
still
swagger.
dexterous.
He's got that Arnold swagger and the whole bit.
He looks good with a machine gun still.
Yeah, I mean, so we're gonna have to wait and see. But I have wondered that myself.
Well, I think he looks a little weird in Expendables. Like, it's a little strange. I was a little thrown by him, but
Yeah.
here's what I think. If he is still trying to do the same kind of movie that he was doing, in the 90s,
Right.
that's a mistake.
Huge
because
mistake.
he's 65. So
Well,
there
and
needs
we don't make those kinds of movies anymore.
Right. And the thing is, like, you have to find a really awesome script that's appropriate for a 65-year-old without there being a line that's like, I'm getting too old for this.
Although-
it can't be like that, but it needs to acknowledge.
Getting too old for this. I don't think it works. I don't think it will work. I think it works in the contained universe of the Expendables because it's funny and it's
Yeah.
playing on itself and it's very self-aware and it's talking about how this is what we used to do and don't you remember us? I don't think it's going to work if you're taking it seriously. I just don't think that audiences really tap in so much to those kinds of movies anymore. And if you're going to do something like that, like to your point, it needs to be a Reds. Where it's like there's a reason why we're running away and we're retired CIA
Yeah.
agents and things like that. But I don't think it can sustain a resurgence in a career, meaning several movies.
Well, he's got a couple coming out, and we'll see. We'll see how well
see.
they kind of work out.
I
I
have
am going to be in line for those myself.
Yeah,
Listen,
love
folks,
'em.
we've run late, but we're still going to take some time here to take some questions from the chat board. I know you guys have been on there, and Ryan's been keeping track. So, Ryan, what do we got on the chat board?
So from the chat board, we've got 3 Frank F. Question: what do you guys consider to be the most overrated movie of all time?
Oh, God.
That's a huge,
Wow.
huge blanket question.
If we can boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
Schindler's List.
But
Oh, I
first
shouldn't
of
have
all,
said that.
First of
Wait.
all, once again, getting to that
Just
word
kidding.
overrated, by saying overrated, that means we're going to have to name a film that generally is accepted as great.
There
that
Will Be
we
Blood.
don't- So we can say anything. Say, yeah.
There Will Be Blood.
Sheetha.
I'm with you.
Overrated.
There will be snores.
And me, it's Blade Runner.
Oh!
Once again, but once again, it has to be a movie that's generally acknowledged as great by most people. If it's not, then it can't be overrated. So
True.
There Will Be Blood, an Academy Award nominated and winning film, and some
Sure.
awards. Me, Blade Runner, one of the most beloved science fiction films of all time. And by saying overrated, I don't think any of us are saying they're bad movies.
No, yeah.
I'm not saying Blade Runner is a bad movie. I'm just saying I think it's really
It
overrated.
didn't. There Will Be Blood didn't strike me the way that it did everyone else.
It
but
did for me. It did. I loved it. I
It
loved
actually
it.
gave me so many great milkshake jokes, so I'm thankful.
Okay,
for
Ryan,
that.
what else we got?
Made for Movies asks, do you think the spin-off to Knocked Up, This Is 40,
Is gonna
judging
be-
by the trailers, will it be any good?
It's going to be awesome. It's
Yeah.
going to be totally awesome. Yes, absolutely.
I have such a massive crush on Leslie Mann. I do. And
I have
make
since she
I
was
have
in George of the Jungle.
such-
Nice.
I have such.
Oh
I
my
think
gosh.
she is hilarious.
Love
I did
her.
too.
Like, to me, the drunk girl in the 40-year-old, she had me
Genius.
at that.
Oh.
She had me at
Let's
that.
get some French
You
toast.
know what I mean? Let's get some French toast. Yeah, like that to me was the Kristen Wiig moment in
Bridesmaids?
Knocked
Oh.
Up.
Oh, yeah,
when
yeah.
when you were like, who is this character
Yes.
that's here for 5 minutes, and how can I get so much more of her? And I've been waiting for Leslie Mann's career to explode a little bit more. I mean, she's doing well, obviously, but more than it has. So I will watch anything she's in.
I agree. It's going to be dope.
And Paul Rudd, look, I just watched Wanderlust, which is one of the most horrible films I've seen in the last couple of years.
That
but
bad.
aside from that, I mean, Paul Rudd, to me, you just can't go wrong with Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so great.
He was at the same bar that I was holding a birthday party for myself at once, and I was so wasted. I was really excited.
Oh, you're one of those kids.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I was like, "Oh my God, Paul Rudd's here!" And I said that right next to Paul Rudd at the end of the night. And he turns and he looks at me because barely anybody knew who he was back then. And he turns and he goes, "Hey," and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Paul Rudd!"
All right, let's take 2 more.
2 more questions. Jonathan Brown has asked, do you think Ryan Reynolds has killed the Green Lantern franchise?
Oh, Jonathan, that question hurts me in my heart.
I don't think so.
Nah.
No.
They're gonna have to do some major work on it though. They're gonna have to reboot it. They're gonna have to.
I don't. Dead. You mean like there will be no more Green Lantern ever, or
Well,
there
no,
will not be a
he's going to
Green
be back. But I'm
Lantern?
going to tell you right now, the problem with Green Lantern, I'm going to tell you right now, I know this isn't a popular opinion, was not Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds was not the problem with the Green Lantern. I actually thought Ryan Reynolds brought the kind of charm I wanted to see in the character itself. But there are problems. I just don't think Ryan Reynolds was one of the problems.
I mean, this is a problem of the script being so inappropriate for such an imaginative character that it blew the entire thing. And I love Ryan Reynolds. I'm so sad for him that this is how it worked out.
I kind of am sad for him too, because I think that he's been fighting to have a superhero character work for him really, really, really well for a long time. By the way, just
Deadpool
really
should have been
quickly,
dope.
I'm going to amend my last answer, and then again, I'm not saying it's a bad movie, but for me, The Departed is the most overrated
Oh
movie
my
of all
God!
time.
What? You're okay. Anyway, let's go
And
on.
with
before
things were
violence
going
I
ensues.
love
so well.
Scorsese to pieces. Love Scorsese
That
to
movie
You
is
pieces.
brilliant.
say that.
That was not his best movie.
Not
by a lot.
Not.
And it was not the
an
best movie
opinion
of that
shared
year
by
either.
me. All right, what else we got?
Our last question from the chat board is from Anna BR. Hello, Anna. And her question is, if the sequel does happen, who would you like to see replace Kristen Stewart as Snow White?
There won't be a Snow White.
Yeah,
in the movie.
Right.
yeah.
Sequel.
Let's be clear about that. That's an important thing to bring up. Is that they're not talking about cutting Kristen Stewart out of the role of Snow White. They're talking about just cutting Snow White out altogether
Yeah.
and just going with Huntsman. Now, for argument's sake, let's say they were going to have Snow White and have somebody else. This is not fact. This is just us playing along. I'd like to see Anna Kendrick.
She's great.
I love Anna
She
Kendrick.
just keeps getting
That
better.
I adore. I really think she's hilarious and she's a great actress. But I do not see her in this kind of. I just don't see her being able to get through it without being just a little bit sarcastic. Like, you know.
I think she could.
She
think
she
she
feels
could.
so fancy to me, like that. I wouldn't believe her with dirt on her face.
I just think
good
she's
call.
got such a comedic genius. I mean, she was great in Up in the Air, and she's certainly a dramatic actress as well. I just don't see her in that kind of fantasy world. I don't want to see her there.
If we wanted, well, speaking of sarcastic, if we wanted sarcastic Snow White that's like kind of a jerk face, we should put Eliza Dushku.
Speaking of true lies. Well, listen, folks, that will do it for us. We got to wrap this thing up. We've gone a little bit over time here, but I don't care. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, don't forget, you can watch us live. If you're watching this on YouTube right now or anywhere else, you can watch us live Mondays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Los Angeles time, 2 p.m. New York time. That's Pacific Standard and Eastern Standard for the rest of you. And listen, hey, if you're watching us live, don't forget you can watch us on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's at youtube.com/AMC Theaters. Hey, while you're at it, don't forget to follow us and like us on Twitter and on Facebook. And for all your movie needs, be them movie tickets, theater, and showtime information, visit us 24/7 at amctheaters.com. Like one of the mailbag people said, you can get an Apple TV. Watch us on your television with an Apple TV or a Roku or a Boxee or anything. You can find us there. Subscribe to us on iTunes. There's lots of places you can find for your consideration. Make sure you subscribe and follow us. And by the way, folks, please don't forget to send us your thoughts and comments and ideas for other topics at fycpodcastshow@gmail.com. Leave your comments in the YouTube videos. So many ways to communicate with us. Please do. We want to hear from you.
Pictures, send pictures.
Pictures. Once again,
Naked
photos.
pictures.
want to thank one of the newest head honchos over at Rotten Tomatoes, Ms. Gray Drake.
Thank you.
Who, by the
thank
way,
you.
is leaving for Atlanta this week to go.
Hot Atlanta.
Because she does, she does movie reviews for CNN. She's flying down to Atlanta to review some movies. Want to thank our very own J-Ro Roth Cornett.
Thank you very much. Gray is always fun.
Once again, Ryan back there taking all your questions. You guys on the chat board. Dennis Zen, who we keep off screen for the protection of yourselves and your children. And for myself, John Campy, I'm the senior editor of AMC Movie News. Thank you again so much for joining us. We'll see you Monday. Bye-bye.